Alrighty, it's Thomas Cox and Jim Prinzing here with M2 Managing Managers. Today's episode is, we've got sort of two titles for it. It's the accountability protocol, which is the answer, and then there's meeting amnesia, which was the initial problem. This episode came about because Jim and I were talking about this phenomenon that managers of managers experience where people are in a meeting and they all seem to be agreeing on something, and then like a day later, a week later, it's as if the meeting never happened because the actions aren't occurring. Whatever that agreement was, it's not being executed. It's like people have had amnesia since the meeting, where there seems to be a decision and there's just no follow-on actions. Or maybe an even more common symptom is you've got a couple great managers reporting to you who they do their work and they follow through. And then there's that one who will say yes to doing work, but doesn't follow through or doesn't follow through nearly as well as you need him or her to. And these all seem very different. And yet there's one answer that we have that Jim and I have used with our clients that is the cheat code for solving these. Is that a fair setup, Jim?
Yeah, it's really what we're going to share today really is the cheat code to all accountability situations. And that's a bold statement. And I ask people to actively prove this when we teach this in a workshop.
Please prove us
Because,
wrong, we say.
because it feels you teach it, and then there's always the one person who's, yeah, but my situation is different. It's like, okay, all right,
Please.
yes,
Sure.
please. Like, I really want to find a situation where this doesn't work. And so we walk through it, and then there's inevitably that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It does fit. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about it this way and it's that way. And so we're going to share the cheat code for accountability and probably do a few episodes on this because it's a really dense topic, but we're going to hit it at a high level, which will set the stage for different applications of it over maybe a
Yep.
few more episodes.
And so by the end of this episode, you'll understand the four-part structure of accountability. You'll begin to see how you can use it yourself, and you'll understand how it can address this. The subordinate doesn't follow through, the meeting amnesia examples. And there's 39 different problems that it fixes.
By the end of this episode, you will clearly understand how accountability works,
Yes.
and you'll be able to diagnose where the breakdown is occurring when you have accountability issues and have at least one or two things that you'll have in order to fix that.
Yeah. You will begin to have new insights. Absolutely. So let me start by sharing this screen where I want to offer this idea of a new way of talking about work. Because when people talk about the work as performing tasks, it's too narrow. We'd like you to think about work as meeting the condition of satisfactions of a customer, where tasks are means to do that. And why is that even relevant? I would claim that 80% of work problems are about task coordination rather than task execution. And sometimes people will quibble with me on the percentage, but it's never less than 50. And usually they're like, no, it's more like 90. And so our claim is that accountability is the basic unit of coordination and teamwork.
So let's make this real. So it's not about performing tasks, it's about meeting the conditions of satisfaction of a customer.
And
So
that's internal
work,
customer, your boss, it's whoever asked you to do the thing.
yeah, so work doesn't exist. You don't just chop a bunch of firewood for the sake of chopping firewood in order to what? Cook some food or
Yeah, yeah, it's in service of whoever's consuming the firewood. It's in service of who asked for it and what kind of, am I even chopping the right wood? Is it the right size? Am I putting it
okay.
in the right place? I'm going to jump straight into the structure of this, and you'll begin to see almost immediately what it is we're sharing with you. That accountability exists as a hidden structure, and it is hiding underneath every form of accountability. You to your customer, you to your supplier, you to your coworkers, you to your boss, you to your subordinates.
Wait, I think we should pause first and define what accountability is,
Oh, absolutely. That's a great idea.
because
So,
accountability feels like one of those words, just like leadership or so many other things, where there's this vague definition that everybody thinks is the same definition, but is it really? So let's
yes,
check in on that. So, what is accountability?
I'm going to claim that accountability is the state that exists where, say, person A promises to do something for person B. No work has been done yet, but an expectation has come into being. And then accountability happens when both people agree that whatever the expectation was has been met. And it can be met three ways. The first is, let's say Jim asked me to do something, and then I meet the expectation by doing the thing that Jim understood me as saying I would do. Jim, as the asker, has the controlling expectation. If I'd say, well, no, I did exactly what I thought you meant, it's like, so? I'm not here to satisfy me. I'm here to satisfy the asker, my client, my customer, my asker. That's Jim. That's the first and most obvious way is I do the thing that Jim expected me to do. And Jim tells me that he's happy, and that's how we know that it worked. Or number two, we can renegotiate. Like maybe we have an expectation and something happens, and I'm like, wow, can't do that. Here's plan B. How about this? And then we renegotiate to a new expectation, which is then met. And then number three is we unwind, where it's like we set an expectation, hey, we're going to go camping, we're going to do this thing. And then the forecast says it's going to be raining the whole time. And we're like, let's just not do it. It's like, yeah, let's not. And I look, oh, you put down a deposit here, I'll refund the deposit. There's, and in fact, in the early stages of expectation setting, it's probably wise to say how we will unwind things, like are the deposits refundable, things like that. All three of these are perfectly valid ways to do business. And if you do them well, you can make customers very happy. You can make your coworkers, your boss, your subordinates very happy by doing these three things. And then there's the other things, which is where people start talking about accountability because they're in one of these four states where we disagree over what was promised and or we disagree over what was received. And honestly, these are just two sides of the same coin. And number three, I, as the doer, just fail to perform. And I don't unwind and we don't renegotiate. And then number four is I do something, but you don't accept it, and we don't unwind and we don't renegotiate. And so what you should be noticing here is that these breakdowns are not necessarily fatal conditions. We can get partway through setting an expectation and starting to perform, and we find ourselves down in disagreement or failure. And then if we can find a way to renegotiate or unwind in ways that work for both of us, we can save the day. And this is what service recovery is, right? It's like we start to screw up or we start to make the client unhappy or there starts to be a miss and we catch it and we fix it. And you can often actually create higher loyalty with customers from a good save than you can from a flawless execution the first way through. Not that you should try that. Like, don't deliberately fail in order to save the day. But having really good service recovery is a way of demonstrating to people that even if things get weird, I will have high integrity and I will have high reliability and I am trustworthy and you matter to me and I want to make you whole and I want to make things right for you. And I literally once gave a 5-star review to a guy who almost blew up a house closing 48 hours before it was supposed to close. Like he was supposed to clear some mold and he ended up bleach bombing the entire house and you could not breathe in the house. And we were convinced that it would be reeking for weeks and that we wouldn't be able to close. And he couldn't,
But he successfully renegotiated and
he,
rebuilt trust
yes,
through.
we tried to call, his emergency number didn't work. It was a failure. I'm like calling other people to fix it. And then he shows up with, I think, every fan and air mover in the greater Portland area and extra staff and vans. And they just open all the windows. And he's, I will handle this. I will take care of this. And then he doesn't charge us a penny for the fix and actually knocks money off the original treatment, although he did succeed in the original treatment. And it was perfect. The day later, it was, you could not smell a thing. And
So accountability was still met
it
because
was, yes, because he renegotiated and it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but the ultimate result was the thing that was supposed to be fixed was fixed and the house was still habitable. Now I had a bit of a heart attack and I lost a day of sleep, but ultimately he pulled it out and he pulled it out by showing going the extra mile, eating a lot of costs, putting my interest ahead of his own, all the things we cover in the trust episode for were present. And so you can see
so there's
that,
something as we look at this list and think about, okay, when I promise to do something for you, I'm creating an expectation. So there's an expectation that's created here. And then accountability occurs when you and I both agree that this expectation has been met. Okay. So it feels like the biggest thing at play here, there's a number of things, but one of the biggest things that we have control over is creating clarity around that expectation.
yes, and a lot of people try to keep expectations vague by mistake because they think it's safer. It's not. It's not, people. It's not. Don't use vague expectations. It doesn't save you. What happens is the other person fills in the blank areas with their imagination, and then they think you said that, and
Yeah.
then they want to hold you to it. It's just not good.
All
Well,
right. So what's this cheat code?
so the cheat code is that accountability is built and executed. Expectations are set and then completed using a four-part structure that is present every single time an expectation is set and then either met or fails to be met. The structure is always there. You may or may not know it now, but by the time you get to the end of the episode, you will see it and you will understand it. And once you see the structure, you can go, oh, I see where things are going sideways, and now I know how to fix it. Because the structure opens up new ways of thinking and acting during these loops that already exist. We call it the hidden structure underlying all forms of accountability. And there's four parts to it, right? There's always two players. There's an asker and a doer. That's just totally
And
normal.
so to be clear, this could be the asker could be a supervisor and a subordinate. It
Yep.
could be the asker could be a customer, and it could be you as the vendor. It
Yep.
could be the asker could be your subordinate, and then the
Yeah.
doer could be you as their boss. Like this
Yeah.
works. Yeah, this is not always a top-down hierarchical
Absolutely.
approach.
It's
Yeah.
anytime anyone sets an expectation of, I will perform a service to your satisfaction. Like I say, hey, Jim, I report to Jim and I say, Jim, can you approve my timesheet or can you approve my vacation request? I need to know by Tuesday. And he says, yes. And then Tuesday comes and goes and it doesn't happen. It's like, I made a request. He said he would do the thing, right? I was the asker. He stepped into the role of doer. An expectation got set, right? So let's look at how that happens. Let's slow the camera down so you can see all the moving parts. So the asker initiates, and that is everything that happens in the asker's head or in their notes as they're getting ready to ask, but they haven't asked yet. And initiation ends with the request. The moment the request leaves the asker's mouth or their keyboard, we're done with the initiation. And by the way, if you're the asker and you want this to go, there's a lot of things you can do during initiate to set it up really well for the next step, especially if you've been around the loop a few times and you've been disappointed. You could be asking yourself, how do I initiate better with greater clarity to ask for what I want? Once the request has arrived, now we're in the negotiation phase where the asker and the doer have a conversation about what's realistic, what's feasible. I know I initiated by asking for oak flooring, but Fred tells me that they're out of oak. All they have is maple and bamboo. Okay. And then at some point, we have to come to some sort of decision about what we're going to do about the reality that it is. And hopefully, by the end of negotiate, we end up with a mutual agreement of performance. Or you can say, this isn't going to work, and you just both bail out. And the expectation is nothing's going to happen. And that's okay too, but it should be rare. Once you've got an agreement in place, now the ball is in the doer's court. The doer has to do the work. They're going to perform. Performance is not complete until it is reported as complete. I was showing this loop to a guy yesterday, works for UC Berkeley, and he said, oh my God, this is happening all the time. People keep doing work and then leaving, and they don't tell anybody that they finished, which means that the person who has the next action in the larger chain doesn't know that it's ready. And lots of time gets wasted. And in fact, you're not even truly done with the loop when you report that performance is complete. It's just that the perform phase is done when you report that you're complete, because the next thing is that the two of you should have a conversation in the accept phase, which should only end when the asker says, I'm happy with this, or I'll deal with it. It's okay. It's good enough for now. Or they could say, would you fix this one other thing? And then that's a new initiation. And that's a new little subloop that opens up. You can find yourself in the accept phase and be unhappy and then launch straight back to negotiate for a rework. And one of the subtleties of this is people will routinely discover during perform and especially during accept all kinds of problems, but the seeds of those problems were planted during negotiate and initiate. But they don't realize that I didn't specify PDF or Word format and you sent me the one I didn't want instead of the one I did. But I never initiated that correctly and we didn't discuss it during negotiation. Oops.
Our hypothesis is that well above 70% of accountability problems can be remedied by the first two steps, by doing the first two steps well.
Yep.
Having the most clear mutual agreement of performance will eliminate a vast majority of accountability issues.
Absolutely, yes. So let's go back to our that subordinate with a lack of follow through, or the meeting where we seem to have agreement and then everyone leaves the meeting and it's like we've got amnesia. Like, you can see now that you've seen the structure, you can begin to see, oh, my subordinate said yes here at the end of negotiate. They gave me a verbal yes, and so this expectation is set, but then the doing doesn't happen. The perform isn't there. Do I have an obligation as the asker to say, hey, I need to see your work breakdown structure. I need to see your project plan. Okay, this is a 3 week project. Don't come back to me in 3 weeks with the result. Come back to me in 24 hours with your approach. And
Mm-hmm.
then I want to see interim deliverables every week. So I know that you're on track and that I didn't confuse you and that because we're both nodding and smiling doesn't mean we actually understand each other,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
These are things you can do to front load this, especially if you've got someone that you're struggling with communicating with and where they keep not meeting your expectations and you're mad at them. Being mad at them doesn't make them perform better, generally. Maybe in a few rare cases, if they're the sort of person that needs to be kickstarted. I will admit I occasionally need to be kickstarted. It's rare, but it happens. I try to phone it in sometimes, and I just need someone to say, dude, stop that. Okay. But generally speaking, I'm not trying to do it wrong. But if we aren't getting clarity up front, we're we're hoping, we're guessing. And it's much, much better when you know that Fred has a history of letting you down. Okay, then take the time during the accept phase the next time you're disappointed to say, huh, what could I have made clearer in my initiation? What could I have pre-negotiated with that person? And often it'll be things like, hey, Fred, I get that you say you can do this in 3 weeks. In the past, you sometimes occasionally, I like to understate things, you've occasionally struggled to finish things in the time frames you've given me. What do you think might get in the way this time, and how can you prevent it from getting in the way? And so you get into a kind of a coaching mode where you're asking them to anticipate the blockages. And they might say, oh, gosh, yeah, I've got on my tunnel vision. I'm looking at, if I just think about the thing you asked about, I give you a blue sky, fair wind estimate of 3 weeks, but I've got three other projects for you. I forgot. I've got tunnel vision. I'm like, I'm nervous and anxious talking to my boss maybe, or I just don't routinely do capacity planning for myself.
Or even more likely is we don't create space for that in the
Oh,
workflow,
we have a new priority, but we don't give people permission to drop anything.
or
If
we
they're,
expect them to self-manage that or some other permutation
yeah.
thereof. So
Which, by
that's
the way, and
actually,
sometimes they
I
do self-manage, yay them, but you can't expect that necessarily. And if they have a track record of not self-managing successfully, isn't it on you to step in and help them? I would argue
yeah, I
yes,
think
especially if they report to you.
especially now we're applying the accountability to a specific relationship where the
Yep.
asker is the
Higher
supervisor
ranking.
and the doer. Yeah, all those this works in so many situations. It's probably helpful for us to apply it in this relationship for a couple of illustrations. And I find one of the most powerful things that a manager can do is share this loop with their team,
Yes.
because one of the most powerful pieces is that negotiate phase. And if team members aren't given explicit understanding of their responsibilities in the negotiation phase, it's very difficult for them to be even aware that they should be negotiating.
Right.
You're getting that soft yes because they think that you're their boss and so they should be doing whatever you tell them to do, even if it's batshit crazy because of all the other stuff that's already on their list. But if you give them implicit instructions to negotiate with you about it by surfacing other priorities that they have on the list, other things that they've promised, and then allowing you to help them triage that and identify what the true priorities are, wow, not only have you negotiated a clear mutual agreement of performance, but you've helped level set their workload and ensured that they are set up for success. So
Right.
it really gives you an opportunity to build trust, not micromanage your team, but actually lead your team successfully.
Yeah, because what you'd love for them to do is self-manage their workload and ask you things like, hey, boss, I don't know if you remember, you gave me three other top priority things. I'm not going to be able to do all four of these things, including the three you gave me before and the one you're giving me now. I just don't see how that's realistic. What do we do about that? You would love for them to bring that up. But if they don't, what happens? Things could get really ugly really quickly. And so I'm just going to jump into the best practices of negotiate here. The asker, if you're the asker and you're a negotiate, we would love for you to do things like, as Jim just said, normalize the use of the protocol. Show them the list, show them the loop, show them the list of best practices, invite questions. One of my favorite questions to ask for clarification is, hey, look, I know what I just said, but I don't even always know how I come across. What did you hear me say? And not as a quiz, if you get it wrong, you're bad and stupid, but rather as a cross check. Like I said a bunch of words and I know what I meant by them, but I often don't come across as clearly as I think I do. Could you tell me what you heard? And then we can like between the two of us figure out what the right message is. Be nice about it. Yeah, I ask myself, what did I forget? Asking for interim deliverables and interim updates is always a good practice. And then tell the doers that you want them to challenge if they know a better way. If I say, hey, I want you to give me an ER diagram, and they're like, actually, a data flow diagram would be better. Oh, you might be right. You need them to not give weak yeses where they say yes, but they haven't really thought it through. They haven't checked their workflow. They haven't taken on the moral weight of, I want to satisfy this. They're saying yes to get you off their back or because they think they need to. They should ask what else they're doing. They might ask themselves if they can commit to an outcome or only to an effort. Let me explain that one. Sometimes it's not a known solution being applied to a known problem. Sometimes you're trying to devise a novel solution to a problem you don't fully understand, in which case outcome is not appropriate. You should be making an effort promise, not an outcome promise. For instance, we had a guy stripping wallpaper for us. And normally, wallpaper stripping is so well understood that there's a manual that you can go to that will tell you the standard amount of time it should take a worker to strip X number of square feet of wallpaper off of drywall in like normal conditions. It's like it's just a known thing in the construction industry. But this wallpaper wasn't really wallpaper. The idiot who owned the place before, I'm sorry, I'm opinionated, had taken magazine covers and glued them to the wall with special art glue. It doesn't strip the same way wallpaper strips. And so if I said strip this wall in 3 hours and he gets 3 hours in and it's just not working, what am I going to blame him? It's not a known, it's not a known solution to a known problem. What I want him to do is I spend 1 hour trying things and then get back to me and let's figure out what we're going to do next and find out what a proper estimate would be. And just giving a list like this to your doesn't have to be subordinates, anybody you work with, and say, hey, look, this is how I like to make agreements. Let's make sure that we're both on the same page. And this is a great cheat sheet. It's a great job aid. It's a great way of elevating the quality of your dialogue as the two people try to come to a meeting of the minds, to a shared expectation that's realistic in the context that you're in.
One thing I learned early as a doer, I had a VP that I worked for who was one of the sharpest, fastest thinkers I'd ever worked for. And he would ask for incredibly detailed reports, like in the middle
Oh,
of a meeting. Like we'd be working on some complex problem, and he would concoct an analysis that he wanted in the meeting. And I learned after I did the first one, which took me about 2 weeks,
oh
and
my gosh.
literally, like, literally pushed all of my other work to months of delay.
Oof.
So I learned pretty quickly that I needed to figure out how to negotiate with this guy
If he's
appropriately.
dropping, yeah, if he's dropping 2 week long little bombs on you,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
And so I used the visualization or early update. So I would call him up after the meeting and say, hey, Pete, in the meeting, you asked me for X. I have a clarifying question. What's the ultimate outcome you're trying to get from this?
oh, for the sake of,
And then I would say, great. Okay, so I can get you the report that you asked for, which would give you this and this. I think I could do that in about 10 days or so. Or I could get you this report that would give you this information, and I think it would answer the question that you're asking. And I could have that to you by tomorrow afternoon.
That is a
Like
textbook example of do I know a better way?
10 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10. It was like it was the greatest hack. I thought I'd like struck gold, discovered gold.
Oh
So,
my God, I'm saving yourself
and I'd
all
watched
that
my poor
time
coworkers, like I finally started sharing the secret.
because they're being hit with these same 2 week time bomb
And that was
requests.
not his intent. His intent was
Right.
not that. He was trying to answer complex questions
For
and
sure.
just didn't, yeah, he didn't have access to the accountability loop, and
Right.
he didn't give people implicit instructions to renegotiate or to
Right.
negotiate
Right.
what the agreement was.
And which ultimately by doing that, you made him happier faster
Yeah.
and it made your
And so
life
many
so
times,
much
so
better.
here's the magic of that. So we didn't go into the ask for best practices, but
True.
perhaps the most powerful ask for best practice is to be really clear on what the ultimate outcome of your ask is. If you can just get as clear as possible as you can about that and share the context of it, describe it visually if you can. I'm imagining a report, and it's got these columns and it's got these rows, and it would help me answer whether or not we should manufacture this product here or whether we should manufacture it one of our satellite locations, like whatever ultimate question that is. Then that allows your subordinate to
Hmm.
take all of their expertise, think of, do I know a better way? They also see visually what you're describing, right? All those things.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're in the seat where you don't know what your ask really is. You don't really know the ultimate outcome. If you've
Right.
shared this accountability protocol, now you have this magical tool in negotiation where they can actually be your thought partner in helping you figure out what it is. It's okay. Let's say you come to me, Thomas, you're my boss, and you're like, hey Jim, I've got this problem I want to solve, but I'm not really sure what I want to solve. I want to give you a clear ask, but I'm thinking about this problem and thinking about these things, and ultimately I need to answer this question, but I have no idea how to get there. Because we've shared this loop, I can go, oh great, okay, so let me see if I can describe it visually to you. What you're thinking of is a report that would give you this information, and it would be structured this way, and I'm thinking this and this, and you'd be like, okay, that's really close, but I like what you said about the first question, but that made me realize what my actual question is, and I want to ask this is what I want to answer. So what you described about this and this, and we go back and forth until we're so clear on it. Then you can say, okay, how long will that take you? And I'd be like, I've got these three other things on my plate right now. How high a priority is this? Is this more important than those other two things that we talked about on Monday? Oh no, this could wait till next week. Great, I can have it to you by Thursday at the latest. Perfect. We're done.
Boom.
Boom.
That's the way to do it. Because this is such a multi-use tool, and because it, as we say, it underlies all forms of accountability, and you use it every time you set and meet an expectation, which is constantly throughout the day. This is the basic unit of teamwork, is setting expectations with each other and then fulfilling them in various ways. So getting good at this is, let's just say that of all the things that we teach people in leadership, the one we most commonly have them come back to us like a month or two later and say, hey, could you teach my subordinates the accountability loop? Because I want to use it with them and you guys teach it so well. And so we'll do that. This is the thing that people come back to. And we have like an 11 by 17-inch infographic with all 39 ways the loop can go sideways and how to make it not happen. And people print that out in color and stick it on the wall and refer to it when they're working together. So this will absolutely pay back. Any time you spend studying this, trying to understand it, you'll be amply repaid by better expectation setting, better expectation meeting, happier boss, subordinate, customer, supplier, peer, family member. This has paid off so well for both of us and for our clients over the years, and it will pay off for you. And we'll come back and talk about it even more in the future. So I think that's basically all we needed to say for today.
Yeah, I think it's such a rich topic, but
Yeah.
our goal was to just create an introduction and show the basic structure. And
Yep.
there's so much more to it once you start peeking under the hood.
Yes. And we'll bring you, I'm sure, many of those in episodes to come. Obviously, if questions, we'd love to hear about them. Send us a message. And if you'd like that accountability protocol infographic, we can make that available to you. Just to get in touch. We'll have a link nearby this episode where you can click on to ask for that. Super. Well, thank you, Jim, very much. Take care, everybody.